everybody. My name is Kiri. I am a member of the local Duchy of Windhaven, which is a chapter of the Amtgard LARP that is based here in Hagerstown. In the game, I play a character whose name is Baronetess Ziamara Tordenbear. Most people in the game end up just calling me Zio because it's a mouthful. Along with a few others of our chapter here today, I'm going to go ahead and talk to you guys about costuming and how it can really affect your experience either with LARP, which is live action role playing for those who may not know, or even with cosplay. A lot of the principles between the two, whenever it boils down to costuming, are really interchangeable, and you'd be surprised how similar they end up being. Costuming, whenever it boils down to it, is very much a form of visual art. And the clothing that we end up choosing has a large impact on how others choose to interact with us and how we choose to interact with them. So what I really want to look at here today is basically what that impact looks like, and how to go about creating a costume that really brings your character to life, whether it be an original character or a character that you're recreating, or even somewhere in between. So, I mean, if you think about your normal day-to-day life, very often the first interaction that we have with those around us is our attire. So if you see a wealthy, a person in a very neatly pressed, expensive suit, you might assume that person is either a wealthy business person or someone on their way to an important meeting or an event. Whereas someone, that you might pass in the street that's wearing just, jeans and a plain graphic tee, they might be perceived as someone who's a lot more casual, and we can, assume that whatever they have on their shirt is something that they're interested in. Now, just like with these, mundane interactions, the costuming that you choose to choose in your play can affect how others perceive your character, and eventually how they choose to interact with that character. Like I said before, I'm mostly going to focus on LARP costuming in this particular video, just because that's more my wheelhouse. But the basic concepts of the costuming is going to be interchangeable between LARP and cosplay, and there's going to be a lot of overlap in between the two. When we don a costume, we are doing it with the intention of bringing a character to life. So whenever I, Kiri, put on Ziamara's clothes, it's essentially me stepping into her shoes, into her life. Whenever I roleplay, I'm going to be choosing actions based on what she would choose, not what I would choose. It doesn't matter really if your pieces are homemade, if they're purchased. Every item that you choose to wear as part of your costume really should reflect the character that you have in mind. So if you're playing a human scout, it would make sense your character may wear mostly greens or browns, with like leather accents, as opposed to opulent court attire that might be seen with a more noble character. Now, that doesn't mean that your character can't wear those clothes and that they're not allowed to go outside of the norm of what is expected of them. A lot of times, you might see scenes or situations in the story where other forms of costuming are really called for, as opposed to your normal attire. For example, if you're called for an audience with the king, you wouldn't want to wear your usual forest garb. That would be something you'd want to dress up a little bit more for. It really boils down to the storytelling and being able to work the clothes that you want to wear into your story and into your character, and making it basically justifying what's happening. So for example, if I'm playing my character Zio, she's very much every ounce noble lady, but she isn't necessarily comfortable in overly complicated court attire. She's a noble woman, but she's also a warrior. I play the warrior in the game aspect of it. So she likes to be able to wear clothes that she can defend herself in. So, she might wear a fancier top with an overdress, but under that, be wearing pants or leggings or etc. Something that she can still fight in, something that she can still defend herself at a moment's notice. Now, that's not to say that she's not going to wear that overly complicated court attire. It just means that, she might not be in the best mood, which is going to affect not only how I interact with other people in roleplay, but how those other people interact with me, since, obviously I'm going to have a very noticeable demeanor change from what they might be used to. Now, changing in costumes that affect interactions don't always need to be as drastic as a complete wardrobe change. Just some details of a costume can lead to bigger interactions than what you might expect. So having items worked into your costume for others to notice, to kind of like have those as roleplay hooks, is a really good way to spur character-driven roleplay, as well as make it easier for other people to interact with you. So it's that difference between wearing like a plain t-shirt and wearing a graphic tee. One of them is, just a gray shirt, nothing on it to go on. It's going to make it really hard for somebody to just start up a conversation with you. Whereas if you slap a Stark Industries logo on there, then suddenly, you and I have something in common. We have a place to start a conversation, to start that connection. The same applies to your characters. So, maybe your character is a devout follower of a god, give them a holy symbol. Maybe they're in the King's Guard, give them an insignia on their cloak. Give something for other characters to latch onto, to be able to start that interaction with you and bring you into the story. Now, the level of detail that you can put into your costuming is really going to change the quality of the role play that you have. That's going to be driven based on your costume. Now, obviously, there are some role players that are very, very talented that are going to be able, that could walk in there in nothing but just plain trousers and a tunic and just role play their hearts out. Not everybody has that skill level. Not everybody has that comfort level. If you can do that, more power to you. But the more things that you have for people to be able to, kind of latch onto and connect to, it's going to lead you to a better experience, not only for you, but also for other people, because it's going to make them easier to kind of bring into the story as well. So now that we've talked about how costuming can affect your play, how do you want to go about creating the costume for your character? So to start, you need some inspiration. So who's your character? What do they do? What kind of setting do you need to account for? So is this a sci-fi LARP? Is it a sword and sorcery LARP? Where are you starting? And before you create your physical costume, you're going to want to have a good idea in mind of what you want for your character. Once you have that baseline, you can really start pulling pieces together, but I wouldn't start before you have that baseline, just because, if you spend $90 on a leather jerkin, and then decide you're going to play a wizard, it's going to be really hard to kind of work that into your costume if you're no longer playing, for say a ranger. And like I said before, your pieces can be handmade, purchased, a mixture of the two. It's not really gonna. There are some purists out there who say, your costume should be homemade, and if you have the skill level and the time and the space to be able to fully create your costume, that is absolutely amazing and more power to you. But at the same time, there's no shame in purchasing items, supporting artisans, things like that. You should enjoy the clothes you wear. So going from there, there is definitely a few things that you should consider whenever you're choosing the items that you want to wear for your character. First and foremost, believe it or not, it is not your character. First and foremost is your ability to move in your costume and the level of comfort that you have. So if you're doing a lot of moving, especially, fighting at an event, you're going to want to make sure that you have a good range of movement. Any kind of constricting straps, corset, heavy or breakable props, layers of clothing, inappropriate for a climate. These are all going to really impact how you're able to portray your character, potentially your safety, and also your enjoyment of the event. This isn't to say that you can't include those things in your overall costume, but definitely just make sure that you account for them and plan accordingly. Especially if you're going to like a fighting event in the middle of July, you're going to want to limit the number of layers that you wear, just because, extra layers are going to cause you to potentially overheat, which could be pretty disastrous. Now, second only to your comfort is going to be your character. So going back to those questions that we asked for our costume inspiration, your pieces should always be chosen with your character in mind. So, you know, if you have a wood elf and archer, your costume's going to look very different than a human knight. So, you know, always, whenever you can, be true to your character. Next is going to be carry capacity. This is something that people often forget, and they will kind of let go by the wayside in favor of aesthetic, which does have its perks, but at the same time, anytime you're in a costume, there's invariably going to be things that you need to carry that might not be thematic. So, for example, car keys, wallet, phone, inhaler if you're like me, etc. So built-in pockets and pouches are always going to be a good addition to any costume, anywhere you can fit them in. Hidden pockets especially are very good if you have like puffier pants or a jacket or things like that. Obviously some characters are going to lend themselves better to having more storage space, but if you're able to include those elements in your costume, you're going to thank yourself later. And then last but not least, what I want to look at is going to be durability. So this is both something to look at for both the short term and the long term. So, you know, full face makeup, full suit of armor, wigs, things like that. Those are all amazing immersion pieces. Those are really going to help bring your character to life. They're going to help, you know, illustrate your character to other players. But again, if it's 100 degrees in the middle of July, you might want to skip the armor, you know, and maybe find like a roleplay reason why your character wouldn't be wearing it. Or skip the full face makeup during the day, and then maybe later on at night, whenever you're able to be in the building or in the shade or something like that, maybe then take the time to apply it. Your comfort and safety is always going to be more important than the costume. Always, 100%, regardless of how cool it is. I promise you will thank yourself later. So we're going to go ahead and move on from here. Like I said earlier, I'm going to have a couple of other people kind of come in at this point and kind of explain their costume and their character and how they came up to that point. And basically just a couple of points in their costume that are really cool, that help them to pull in for roleplay. So if you could just stick around and we will take a look at those.
Hi everyone, my name is Nishki, and for this character I am playing Illyria, also known as Azur. She is an assassin. It was actually all inspired by my mask here. With this mask I actually can't talk at all in it. It fits my face a little too well. So I decided to make her mute, which ends up affecting roleplay very differently. Because I can't actually communicate, I have to use all of my hands and try to make people understand, which causes a lot of hilarious misunderstandings. Also with this character, she's very ostentatious. She likes to kind of stand out in the crowd, even though she's an assassin. Part of her bit is that she serves somebody else and does not enjoy it, so she's almost trying to get caught. That's why we have all of this super bright silver all over the place, and it also matches the mask. She very much likes to match and be very cohesive. I have a skirt because it's a lot easier to fight in. It's easier to move. Also, in the summer when it gets really, really hot, I can take the leggings off. Makes it a little bit cooler, and in the winter I can put on fleece lined leggings so that way I don't freeze. With this, I have 2 belt pouches because I have no pockets. Belt pouches are really helpful. And I actually have it super matching. So you can see it matches all the rest of it. And I found the biggest button I could find because she's very out there and ostentatious. With the mask, it also looks like I'm glaring at everyone, which is very helpful. She's a little bottle of aid. I literally can't talk with that on, so I have to remove it to speak. So that's just a little bit about my character. It's not too much. She just likes to stick out like a sore thumb and then murder people.
Hi, I'm B, and I play Lord Kadok, the Bardic Priest. I have been in the game of Amtgard since 2006, and it's taken me a long time to make this character. It is a bit of everything. I've bought things for this character, I have made things for this character, things have been given to me. There's all different kinds of things that are going on with my bard. Starting with the base is a gambeson, which is a layer of armor within the game. So this is 1 point, it goes all the way to 6, and kind of is nice in case you ever get yourself into a situation where somebody wants to throw down, you're always wearing some armor. I have a tunic on top of that, and a Larry pipe, which is a hood that is quite handy for in case it ever rains. This thing is a lifesaver indeed. I have, with this garb, I also have a pair of black pants, knee cops, which is kind of armor, so if you hit the ground on your knees, kind of is nice to have, as well as some fine boots. I always buy my footwear, I try not to make that, but I have made the gambeson, the tunic, and the leather pipe was a gift. The pants, obviously store-bought, because they can hide underneath the tunic. The knee cops were made by me. Dressing like this brings a little bit of a problem with pockets. So I actually have 2 pouches, money pouch and accoutrement pouch, or kind of props pouch. This right here holds holy water, holy symbols, as well as like a divination kind of rod. Since he is a priest, he actually goes ahead and has the ability to perform marriages and rituals and that kind of thing. And being in a fantasy world, you never know when you're going to run into a vampire or something undead that's going to go ahead and terrorize a town, and he can walk up with his bardic skills and, calm the people and then deal with this situation. Then there's also the musical instruments. The musical instruments are the big, flashy, dancey part. This mandolin was given to me by a great colleague of mine, so it's a very special name. And then finally, one of the things that's super, super special about this character is the ukulele backpack. It hides back here. It's something that I always wanted to carry an instrument with me on the battlefield, so I made this. It's literally a sheath for my ukulele, and it's great. I can take it right out, play what I need to, kind of thing. Sorry, it's not in tune. I'm not going to play you an out-of-tune instrument. That's just rude. And then it goes right back in. You see how easy it is. And when I'm not using the mandolin, that little ukulele can come in and out all the time when I'm on the battlefield, doing all sorts of stuff. So this is Lord Kadok. Thank you guys so much, and I hope you enjoyed this, and hope to see you out at Amtgard sometime.
Hi, my name is Brandy Beau. I'm with the Duchy of Windhaven, which is a chapter park of Amtgard here in Hagerstown, Maryland. And I'm going to talk to you today about the costuming I did for my main character, Beau Quiver. I apologize. What my mouth is saying is not going to match the audio you're hearing. I had to do a voiceover when I record this. So Beau Quiver is sitting before you. She's a cook, and she is very loving and endearing to her late grandmother. So when I was formulating those 2 key traits about my OC, my original character, they were 2 things that I wanted to make sure I easily incorporate into the character. So thus I have my apron that I've been putting my own personal embellishments on, but I also have a dollar store neck shawl that I thought looks beautiful and will work great as a shawl. I'm not a seamstress, so for me, I looked online for pieces that I felt comfortable in, that I could do our accent, which is fighting, with boffer weapons, that were not stupid expensive. I made that investment, because for me, it's just not something that makes sense. But not every investment needs to come from online. Some can come from a thrift store, Goodwill, and not every investment has to be $100. You can easily take something like a tunic, which was just like a Goodwill thrift that I got for a blouse, and I made it for my goblin character that you guys saw in the intro. Again, $3 at the Goodwill, and I've tie-dyed it and dirtied up to better resemble that character. Definitely look for those quintessential pieces, stick to those quintessential pieces, and be willing to see how you can modify something to match it. Another quintessential piece for me was my bag and my 2 weapons. These are soft foam weapons that I bought at a Halloween store. They are just simple weapons because what cook doesn't have a good knife? And what cook doesn't have a good rolling pin to hit somebody over the head with? But they were pieces I just bought Halloween after clearance. Definitely look at places like Goodwill, aftermarket clearance sections, your old closet of stuff that you don't fit into, and figure out how to modify it for you. So thank you. Have a great day.